When buying something new, it can be tempting to choose the cheapest option. But as we all know, a low price often means poor quality. When you consider the whole life cycle cost of a product, buying things that simply don't break will be the best option, both financially and environmentally. That's why Vestre's goal is to produce furniture that lasts forever. When our designers approach a new design, sustainability is a key factor. Therefore, we use short-haul materials of the best quality. Slow growing in its cold Nordic environment, Scandinavian pine gets extra hard. This makes it exceptionally durable and well-suited for outdoor use. Nordic steel is hot-dip galvanized and powder-coated to meet Norwegian offshore standards. The steel production generates 30% lower greenhouse gas emissions than the world average. Having taken such measures to select the best materials, we do not hesitate to offer a lifetime guarantee against rust and a 15-year guarantee on wood and paint. Vestre offers spare parts for all the furniture we've ever made. After many years of use, worn-out furniture can be returned to our factory for restoration and reuse. So that's how our products last forever and ever and ever. This aids Vestre on our way to becoming the most sustainable furniture company in the world. Our products may cost a little bit more, but in the end, if you consider the whole life cycle cost, we believe no one can beat us. When buying...
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fika with Friends for May. It's great to see so many familiar faces and a few new ones. So welcome to all of you. And this month, as you can see, and I'm sure you're aware, we're tackling SDG 12, which is responsible consumption and production. And in particular, 12.2, the target that says by 2030, we want to achieve the sustainable management and efficient use of natural resources. And it seemed to us a perfect moment to provide an update on the Plus, our amazing new Norwegian factory, which has sustainability running through every inch of it, or centimetre of it, for those of us not in the UK. Currently around halfway through the build, it's due for completion at the end of this year. And this incredible new factory promises to break new ground sustainably, architecturally, socially, and technologically. And we're going to consider today every single detail inside and out with Viktoria Millentrup, design lead for the Plus at Bjarke Ingels Group in Copenhagen, and Stefan Tjust, our own production manager at our Swedish factory in Torsby. So welcome, Viktoria and Stefan. And for those of you who may not know me, I'm Romy. I'm the commercial director for Vestre here in the UK. So hi to both of you. And we're going to talk around this SDG, particularly in light of the climate emergency and how we must all start to act more sustainably. You know, we talk about this all the time in everything that we do at Vestre, particularly those of us in a working environment where we're responsible for designing, specifying, manufacturing hard landscape materials. And we've got to remember that the built environment sector is responsible for more than 40% of all global emissions annually. And at the heart of responsible production is a fully circular economy with the aim of reducing our use of all resources and ensuring an infinite life for everything that we make, which the video you've just watched will have explained. And I'm sure you've got many, many questions about this approach and what we're up to. So please do add them into the Q&A tab. And we'll be having a chat after Viktoria and Stefan's presentations. So over to you, Viktoria. I'll stop sharing.
Hello, everyone. This is Copenhagen speaking from the big office. And I just want to show you a little bit of a presentation of the work process here at BIG, where we designed the new factory. And as Romy already mentioned, I mean, the building sector, or as architects, we are responsible for a lot of the CO2 emissions out there. So we try to change, of course. And I think this is one of our prime projects to show that we can actually do it. And my focus today will be a little bit more on our team spirit here and how we were reaching it with actually a big team. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the also non-polished material, I would say, that you haven't seen so far, because I know there's a lot out there in the media already about the project. So let's go through it together. So of course, we're sitting here at BIG. You see it maybe a little bit in my background if you see my video. And at BIG, we are not only architects, but also engineers and people that work basically with all the environmental analysis part, and also landscape architects, which might interest most of you. So you can see a little bit of the big team that was working together on this project. This is not the complete team, because also some people switched over time, but you can see that we're quite large, and that is basically a range from chief architects to construction architects to landscape designers, and also basically MEP engineering, sustainability, just experts and computational design experts. We are a mix of many nations. In the process of the construction, it went more Danish, because more construction architects are actually Danish here. But we were pretty international, and everyone that worked on the project was pretty excited, because it was also super new for us to go that hardcore sustainable, because we are trying to reach BREEAM Outstanding. And there is currently no factory building in the Nordics or even Europe that is reaching this high of a standard of BREEAM Outstanding. So that was our main challenge, which we all tried to tackle. And this presentation is mainly about a little bit behind the scenes and how did we actually do that? How did we manage it as a big team to go all through this process and be extra sustainable? So you can see a little bit of our, work in progress. So we have, of course, a lot of meetings from the beginning of finding the shape to actually presenting it to Vestre, and also having team meetings every week with a large team to tackle this process. We are in Norway, right in between the steel factory in Torsby and the headquarters in Oslo. So the factory will be placed right in the middle of it, which also makes it extra sustainable, because the transport ways are pretty short. Probably you've seen it. We're placing the factory in a 300,000 square meter forest, and actually all the wood or all the trees that we're cutting are basically as close to the facade as possible. So we're taking away as little nature as possible. And this is actually one of the first meetings that we had, because there was not one site that we were chosen to build on. There was actually 3 sites in the beginning, and we chose this forest as our last journey. And you can see we were absolutely soaked first time in Norway, which was pretty nice. And you probably have seen it, but the factory is built like a plus, and it's actually a warehouse, a color factory, wood factory, and assembly, and then also an office and exhibition. It is shaped like a plus, and it has also this MEP corridor that's feeding every wing with technical stuff, and it can also be extended in the future. And you can see also some renderings from inside. The whole process to get there actually went through a lot of shaping studies. So we do a lot of massings that we kind of evaluate, and we do a lot of models, and we're testing it also, like in every way we can, with renderings and also these goggles that you see. The production process in the factory is actually, the plus itself is just a visual expression of how the production in the factory is actually going through it. And then in the warehouse, the products will be delivered like steel and wood, and then in the wood factory, in the color factory, will be further produced and then come together in the assembly and will be turned into furniture. In the middle is this roundabout, which actually makes it possible for all the forklifts and the conveyor belt to smoothly go through the factory. And you can see here that it leaves out this outside courtyard, which would also always show the main exhibition of the latest Vestre furniture. And this was actually one of the first sketches that we made for the center part and the stair, where we thought that everybody should be able to enter this inner courtyard and that the stair should go up and then over the roof and then out into the forest, which actually is also happening right now. And you can see here, that's one of the discussions where we are looking at a large model and looking at the center part, because there was a lot of technical issues how the construction is coming together in the center part. Also to meet our regulations, and that the structure is partially actually resting on each other. So if you would take away one wing, the whole thing would actually collapse into itself because it's leaning onto each other wing. The office and exhibition is placed above because you don't want to interfere the production underneath. And like this, it's basically placed like a panopticon on top, so you can 360 degrees see into each factory wing and still also into the forest. That's why the shape of the roof is like it is. It's basically taking one point of the roof, lifting it up and making it possible to look into the factory wing as well as into the forest, as you can kind of see here. So you have the view into the courtyard, you have the view into the wings, and also always out to the forest. That's a little bit of a diagram that shows the roof structure, how it's revealing each wing and the forest at the same time. And when we actually finished the concept, we were of course celebrating with the team. So we also had some fun parts in between, but this was pre-COVID, where everything was still fine. So we also went through some tough time after it. Yeah, the construction is mainly from wood. And you can see that this MEP corridor is actually the main part where the stability comes from, because it's cross-braced. The inner part is like a pinwheel resting on the wing structure. And then each of those beams are resting onto the other roof on top. And here you can see a little bit of the process where we went through with our engineers and figuring out how can we make it possible that it's structurally working out, but that we have still enough view and not using too much wood. And you can also see on the right that we're using a lot of Grasshopper, which is one of the tools to do parametric design, which I'm very proud of, because that was mainly also my task, to make it a little bit more efficient whenever there was a new dimension from the wooden beams that we would use in the factory, and they only changed like around 2 centimeters. Then I could update just the slider in this model and it would adjust itself, which made it very nice for me to work with. You probably know that you can access the roof and you can go all over the place around the factory. Everything is visible for everyone at any time. And basically the part that we seal of the forest, we try to bring back onto the roof. So the roof is green and the courtyard is also green again. And we know we don't have so many clients that are so ambitious as Jan Christian Vestre himself. So here's one of the pictures where he's trying to save one more tree from being cut. So we also took a lot of time to actually evaluate the site and how the construction would happen. And I think for also, the construction company, it was a challenge to go that far, to be so close to trees without destroying them. Yes, because you can see here, this is how we are planted into the forest and how we're trying to be as close as the trees as possible. This is a little bit more of a detailed picture of the factory. So you can see the different wings, and the blue wing is the warehouse. the red wing is the color factory. The yellow one is the wood factory, and then the orange one is the assembly. And I think also Stefan will talk a little bit more through all the production part later, so I'm not gonna take so much from him. Of course, to design the whole process, it was very important that we actually visited Vestre and saw the production, because it was super important for us to understand the process and how the furniture was made. Without that, we wouldn't have known that it would turn out to be a plus in the end. Yes, that's a picture from inside the warehouse. And basically this whole part, also Stefan will talk a little bit more about it later on. We have every part of the factory, every machinery color coded. So whenever you are there as a visitor and you want to try to understand the production flow, you can basically just follow the signs on the floor, which also meet in the middle and the roundabout into this kind of rainbow swirl where everything meets together. You can see also here in the rendering that each machinery completely color coded, and this color code is then running back to the courtyard. And this color code also extends to the stair in the courtyard and going out into the forest to give this hiking path and give accessibility for everyone, which is also pretty important when you want to go for BREEAM Outstanding, that actually everyone is always able to go anywhere in the building, as you can also see here. To basically make this possible, we had to do a lot of studies to shape the roof and to shape those ramps so everything is accessible for everyone. So we always rendered, we always tested, we built models, and we did actually also a lot of night shifts, because you can see in the background there's actually nobody in the office but us. So we tried to get the best out of it anytime. And coming to a little bit of more the facade or the outside, the envelope of the building, we have a burned wooden facade, which is a material that kind of protects itself without being painted. And it also doesn't need a lot of maintenance, which is pretty important for the process to get BREEAM Outstanding as well, that you choose your materials well, and that they are not toxic, and that they also last very long. It's not only a material that is maybe locally being found, or it doesn't need to be wood, for instance. It can also be recycled materials, or it can have a long lifespan. So life cycle analysis is always part of each material that we are using in the factory. You can see in contrast to the dark wood outside, in the factory itself, we have the raw wood, which is CLT. And then this is how we are working with details. So we render actually even sections and build up diagrams to understand how things come together. Like for instance here, the facade and the ramp that should meet each other at the right point, also within the facade module. And also this colored stair, how it's coming down, how it's attached to the facade, how are the colors, etc. And then in the whole process, actually, when we are trying to figure out this factory is, of course, very large, and you can see that those dimensions are sometimes not very easy to grasp. You see me in the middle, actually next to one of the beams in the factory. So it's kind of the same size as me in height. And then to the left, we are trying to figure out how wide will be the ramp in the factory, what is wide enough, and how can we give the factory maybe more space. And then on the right side, you can see Jan Christian himself trying to figure out how deep is the factory maybe sunken into the ground. What do you see from outside when you're standing up there, which was pretty fun, actually. The factory itself in the forest. And then a little bit more into the part of the parametrics. We do a lot of light or daylight analysis, sunlight analysis, wind, and everything to actually get to the results that we need to get BREEAM outstanding, because it's a lot about daylight, but then it's also the factor of not overheating inside the factory, reusing the energy, taking the right windows into account. And also how are the work conditions in there? Like, do we get enough daylight in? So it's a lot of factors that we have to test. And then it's kind of like a knockout criteria if it doesn't fit the range that BREEAM is telling us to do. So it was a lot of pain, but in the end we got there. And here you can see one part that shows basically this daylight analysis and how every workspace needs to get enough daylight in the right position. Yes, I don't go through the complete video, but we had a timeline in the beginning that actually said that the factory should be done earlier than we expected. So, but we went into COVID and we did a lot of online meetings all of a sudden. So we couldn't meet as we wanted to. The team was apart. We were all sitting at home. We didn't see our client anymore. I haven't seen the factory that is now halfway built at all. So for me, it's still a dream. So I hope I can go there soon. But yes, we had to go through all this COVID time together and still work as a strong team to not be completely delayed, because of course we went through some troubled times of being over budget and COVID cutting into it, and then being maybe a little bit delayed, but not as much as a lot of other projects at BIG that even stopped due to COVID, because also through all the sustainability things that we had to incorporate in the project, it also made it very easy to continue because the workforces were mainly Norwegian. The materials didn't come from far away, so everything was still kind of in line to continue. And you can see this is halfway through the construction, and we are hoping from BIG to all go there and celebrate and see it ourselves, because we still can't believe it. And just to say it again, I mean, going BREEAM outstanding is definitely not easy, and there was a lot of pain and a lot of discussions and a lot of fights, and we're still here. It's getting built, and it's probably one of the projects where there were least negotiations about how it would look in the end or how it would feel in the end, also because of the sustainability part that was such a big thing in our process. So we couldn't narrow down on any design values. So that's nice. And I think that's also a big thank you for not only the BIG team, but also the Vestre team behind and the contractors and everyone that is on site that is working on this, because it can be only a large team. It cannot be one mastermind, which maybe is sometimes sold at BIG that it is like this, but it's a big team always behind it. So that's it. That's my part. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Viktoria. That was absolutely brilliant. And even all of us at Vestre actually have learned quite a lot from that today. So it was really nice to get that kind of update and hear so much more about the background. Absolutely perfect. Thank you. And Stefan, I don't know if you're ready to share your thoughts on more of the tricky internal production parts.
Yes. Hello, Stefan Tjust here from Arvika in Sweden. I'm looking out on a sunny garden now, so the summer is coming here. Hope you have it too.
So are we, yeah.
I saw a question from Stephen Boxall on the chat. Could I take that?
Yeah, should we do that now? There's a couple. Yeah.
How many people will work there? Well, we have calculated roughly 22, 23 person at the start, but since we have to round things in and make it go smoothly, I think we will have some more. And of course, it will increase over the years when we increase our production. Where they will live, we don't know yet, because we are actually recruiting people now. But there are a small community just a couple of kilometers from the plant. It looks like it's far out in the woods, but they are quite close to Magnor. So there are places to live, and there are also communities in commuting distance from the plant in Kongsvinger in Norway, Charlottenberg and Arvika in Sweden, and so on. So there are communities around this facility. And we also try to get as many people as possible from Torsby, since we are moving the assembly from Torsby plant to the Plus. We want to take the experience from them and take them with us. And we will have minibuses, which Vestre will stand for, and having these bus tours in the morning and in the afternoon, so people can live in Torsby and be transported to Magnar if they like. And we want to have as many as possible with us.
And I think there was a cycling scheme mentioned for people from Magnar, potentially, wasn't there? That there would be a sort of cycle to work type option. Yeah. I'm sure I heard that at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to also incorporate that into the BREEAM design, because you need to give access for people to go there safely. And then it was also from our landscape architects, there was actually a cycle path and walkways along the street close to it established, and also full circle kind of going back to Magnar and going over this little river with a little bridge. So it was all established to be like one big part of it, connecting back to Magnar.
Yeah. And I don't know whether you can answer this next question, Stefan, on taxation. I don't know whether Irvin might be able to. I think he's somewhere listening.
That's not my expertise.
No, nor mine. Let me just see if I can bring, if Irvin is there. I've allowed you to talk, Irvin. Can you answer that one if you are there?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey there. What's the...
Did you see the question?
I haven't seen it.
No, sorry. It says, oh no, it's just a panelist. Sorry. It says, how is the Plus and the business in it taxed in Norway? For example, in the UK, you would have to pay business rates based on the notional rental value of the premises or building, including your plant and equipment, even if you own the building. And this can put some businesses off designing a high quality factory. I don't know if you're able to answer that.
Yeah, I think I'd have to look into it. We can answer him later.
We can, yeah, we'll come back to you on that one, Stephen. Shall we continue? I know, thanks, Irvin. I know we've got another question, but shall we do that at the end? I think that makes sense. So if you're ready, Stefan, to carry on, that would be sensible. Okay.
Yeah, I will show a short presentation, but I just want to talk a little bit about the background, how we came to the decision to building the Plus and so on. And in 2015-16, we worked hard with a strategy for Vestre, and we set a strategy for 2025, and it was based mainly on 3 pillars: that we wanted to grow and be the leading company in our business in Europe, and we should be considered as the most sustainable furniture company, and that we should keep production in Scandinavia, and of course that we need to be efficient to do that. There could be good reasons to outsource production, but we don't want to do that. And all of this should be achieved with the highest sustainable standards, and ISO 14000 certification is simply not enough. Most of Europe's industry has proudly presented the ISO certificate for many years now, and look where that has taken us. I don't think that's enough. So there has been a big change in the production thinking and strategy over the last 9-10 years. I have been Vestre for 6 years, so I came in at a very interesting point. The Torsby factory, which was an existing industry facility, was totally redesigned in 2013, but there were actually no more plans for building more Vestre factories or have own plants. As I said, the strategy work was more defined in 2015-16, and we made an action plan and set Øyvind as responsible for following up. I think we had over 50 action points in the first plan, and it was more to go. And for production, the main challenge was, of course, how to increase capacity and efficiency alongside the growth in markets, new markets, and sales. And a lot of different ideas were discussed along the way. We had some detailed plans that didn't work out in the end. And during this time from the strategy to the decision, we could see that the Torsby factory showed a huge productivity increase, over 50% the last 5-6 years. And it was way larger than our suppliers and subcontractors. And also delivery precision from the Torsby plant to surface treatment has been outstanding, except for a few occasions we had 100% delivery precision for several years now. So we gradually could see that there was an extra value in having control over core process and manufacturing. And this, together with other things, led us to the Vestre Green Industries and to building the Plus. And what will we accomplish with the Plus? Yes, capacity, of course, for the future growth, cutting down on transportation, cutting down lead time, possibly to 1 week. I can't believe I hear myself saying that, but we really see possibilities for that. Control over core production processes, creating facilities with architectural and aesthetic value, creating a production facility open to the public, and to show coming generations that the factory actually can be pretty cool. And also, of course, creating the best life cycle cost for the customer. When I came in contact with that term, life cycle cost, several years ago, it was only seen as an economic value, but it's obvious that it's also sustainable to build durable products. And all this should be achieved without compromising with efficiency, productivity, and production flow. So we set a goal to do something that we believe never has been done before, to build a facility like this. And I'm going to quote Jan Christian Westers, I think, favorite statement that John F. Kennedy stated when he made a speech about the Apollo program and going to the moon. And he said, we are not doing it because it's easy. We are doing it because it's hard. Not to compare building a factory with a moonshot, but anyway, it has some challenges, which is obvious. So I will share my screen and show my presentation. You will recognize some of the pictures from Viktoria's presentation. Hope everyone sees that now. And this is the overview of the location, the Plus in the middle of the woods. And not to talk negatively about anyone else, but you see the neighbor here is another factory, another plant, which is made in a traditional way. And there are thousands and thousands of these types of plants, and you can really see the difference. And the Plus, well, it can be considered as an aesthetic type of building the plant, but it actually gives good meaning to the internal logistics, because if we take all the processes and if you should put them in a line, it would be a very long plant or very difficult to build. So here we have the warehouse and where the goods are coming in from the steel factory. So here we will have galvanized steel frames and raw material, wood, and so on, and some pallet storage. So here we will hang up the frames on a conveyor, and it will go into the color factory. I will show you the color factory a little bit more detail later. And then it will come out in the assembly. You can pick the frames down. You can take the finished wood, which are created here in the wood factory, and you can put things together and ship it out to the customer. So this form is connecting the different processes very good. And internal logistics do really have a meaning. We saw in Torsby, we made layout projects in the assembly, and we could do a 20% increase in efficiency just by straightening out the lines in the internal logistics. And as Viktoria said before, you can see this colors from every different machine or process, and it's easy to follow the flow for a visitor. This picture is very detailed, but it shows a layout of the color factory. As I said, the material is hanged up on the conveyor. It goes into the pre-treatment corridor, where it will be degreased and treated with oxylan. Then it's very important that the steel is thoroughly dried out, because there are always some small pores in the galvanized steel, and we have to go up to 200 degrees for several minutes to get it dry. And then it's cooling down and it's coming out to the painting box, where we have our robots, which are virtual reality programmed, and we have a color on demand system with different color boxes, and we have a filter for residue powder here. Then it will go into the curing oven and go up to 180, 200 degrees. And we have two lines, so you can have different times depending on how thick the material is. Out in the cooling section and out in a buffer zone for the assembly. And the capacity in this plant is 144,000 square meters of painting, and the demand for 2025 is 78,000. So we have a lot of overcapacity there, and that's on day shift. It's fully automated. It will be run by 2 operators. It has a 10-step pre-treatment, and we will reach corrosion class CX. We had earlier C5 M for marine standard. And we will also have an energy recovery of 250 kilowatt at minus 25 degrees centigrade outdoors. So we have a very advanced energy recovery system, and that's almost a little plant in itself. On the other wing, we have the wood factory, and this was actually above my expectations of how far we could reach the automation. We made some jokes that you can't expect to put in a tree and get out a piece of furniture in the other end, but we are quite near now. The raw material will go in a molder, and then it will pass through a scanning machine where it will be scanned on 4 sides, and then from a database it will calculate what kind of intermediates it can produce. It will be cross-cut in different sizes, and it will go into a storage. And then we have this CNC machine with 5-axis heads, and we also have space to put in another one in the future. And the capacity is 2.54 pieces per minute, which is actually 252,000 pieces per year. And the demand is 247,000. So we don't have so much overcapacity, but this is only calculated on day shift. And we can also put in another CNC machine, as I said. Fully automated, 1.5 operators. If we look again at the overview of the plant, and we see the office level here, it's very nice because from the windows here, you can actually go around and you can see out in all the factory wings from this office level and visitor level. So you get a nice visibility and connection in the plant. And on the roof, we have full access 24/7. The public can go up on the outside here on the ramp and look down into this glass wall of the courtyard and look into the factory wings. And you have these glass facades on the sides, so you can stand here and look at the production from the outside. You don't see the glass here, but there are the same glass facades on these wings. Energy, we will run the plant, of course, of 100% renewable energy. We will have solar panels on the roof. We will have heat exchangers and heat pumps, as I said, and geothermal energy wells. So this plant will use 90% less of energy supply compared to similar factories. And the water use and the water recycling is 95%. We will have an evaporator, so the processed water will go there and we will evaporate clean water and take out the sludge in the bottom. So the refilling of water is only about 5% of the total need for the plant. Also, chemicals in the plant are replaced with more eco-friendly alternatives. The existing processes today create a lot of phosphate sludge, and this will not be in this plant. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much. I will end with a picture of our steel factory in Torsby, the facade there. So we don't forget that we have an excellent factory also there.
We do. Thank you, Stefan. That was also brilliant. And I know sometimes we wonder about what to tell you and how much detail to go into. But when we took customers to this factory in Torsby, gosh, coming up 2 years ago, 18 months ago, you know very well where they were poking around, and the things that they really wanted to see were the ground source pumps and the photovoltaics on the roof, weren't they?
Yeah,
All of what we were showing people. Landscape architects clambering all over the place. Very interested in the energy recovery systems and exactly the same principles there. So a couple of questions have come in. I think maybe one for you first, again, Stefan, but I think Irvin's kind of answered it from Charlotte. She said, do you include distribution costs of finished products to their ultimate destination into the total environmental cost? And Irvin has said that currently our EPD values are cradle to gate, A1 to A3. You can see these in our catalogue, our inspiration book this year. But in terms of climate neutrality of the company, it is included. And our aim is to get the EPD values cradle to cradle in the future. We've got to start to take logistics into account. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Stefan, in terms of our internal and external logistics sustainability.
No, not really. You're right there, but it's also hard to calculate because we have customers all over the world. So the biggest markets so far are Scandinavia. So we have short distances on the main part of our deliveries, but since the export countries are growing, so it will have a bigger impact.
And I know sustainably wise, internally, our logistics are run on biofuels at the moment, but there's a transitioning to 100% electric vehicles coming pretty soon.
Yes.
Okay.
And as you maybe have said before, we have also ordered an electrical truck to do the transportation between the steel factory and the plus.
Yes. Yeah. And that will obviously be charged on 100% renewable energy. So not quite the same issues we have here in the UK, where we don't have 100% yet. And
the minibuses I was talking about earlier will also be electric.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. And I think one for you, Viktoria, from Barry, who's speaking at our Fika at the end of next month. So hello, Barry, and a very pertinent question because this is what we're talking about next month, the move to outdoor workplaces. And he said, As a result of COVID and social distancing, have you had to reconsider how the office areas will be used and the general density of the building? And will there be outdoor areas for people to work if they want?
That's a good question. I think the layout for the office was already done before COVID-19. But definitely the space upstairs in the factory is very, very generous. So it's actually having more square meters for the people expected working there. So it has a capacity to expand or you know, nobody needs to sit right next to each other if they don't want to. So I think the ability to move things around on a free layout, like we did it there. There's not really partition walls or anything, or real like enclosed offices. It's a little bit more like a Google floor plan. Right? We were working with a lot of their offices, so we're building also a lot for them, and they are always, you know, brand new on what is the right working conditions for office conditions. So we decided to have this open floor plan to have maximum flexibility. We haven't so much thought about having outdoor workspaces, but of course you can always go to the courtyard inside, down the stairs, or up to the roof if you want to. I think nobody would stop you in the end, or even have a stroll through the forest. I think there's also no really office space that has a forest or like the opportunity to go for a walk in a forest that close by. So I guess you have a lot of things to explore if you want to. And I'm really happy to design even more workplaces in the forest. So you can hire me.
That's a good point.
In the trees. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, never mind biophilia and the view of trees. It's actually being in amongst them. And I know we've got plans to place a lot of furniture in and around the trails in the forest. So I guess you could probably take your laptop or iPad and just head out to one of those. I'm sure that will be used.
I think
we have to buy rain jackets for everyone.
Well, I didn't like to mention the weather. Yeah, exactly. Yes, we have that to contend with. But yeah, no, thank you. And actually, I'll mention it later, but this is exactly what we're talking about next month. And, you know, the healthier environments that we can create for working in offices and out of offices. So it's a good point. I don't know if anyone else has questions. Please add them into the question and answer tab or in the chat if you do. I was just going to ask you, Stefan, I mean, looking at some of those diagrams of the powder coating plant and the CNC, does it feel like Christmas every day? I mean, are you kind of just picking things that you never thought you'd be able to purchase? Does it feel like that, or is it quite a challenge in itself?
It's a very big Christmas, yeah. and I have a background from process industry, so I feel a little bit more at home when I look at the color factory.
And I think with that, at the moment, the changing of nozzles, because of the 200 colors we use, I think it takes something like 15 minutes to do that. And the new one will be done in 30 seconds, something along those lines?
30 to 60 seconds from stop spraying one color down to cleaning and up again spraying a new color under 1 minute.
Yeah, so that will, again, in terms of efficiency, make an enormous difference, so that we can change and swap with all of the 200 colors, which we have to do pretty much.
That's a big challenge for traditional painting, all these colors, because if you have a traditional paint box, you have at least up to 10 minutes for color change and maybe more.
Although here in the UK, for some reason, the color of choice is anthracite grey generally. So we know that we're going to be doing a fair bit of that still, I imagine. We have a question now from Alina. Why did we prefer, so this is about the steel factory. Why have we continued to retain the metal processing in Torsby and not integrate it into the new factory in Magnor?
We have a very nice operation in Torsby, and if we should have moved it to Magnor, we had to build a much larger plant. We have 3,500 square meters of steel factory in Torsby now, and we see that maybe in 5 years we have to expand that. So it would be a very large building to build in Magnor if we would have done that. And of course, as I said, the operation is running very, very well in Torsby. And
there's been a lot of investment there in the last very few years, hasn't there?
Yeah.
So I mean, it is still a very cutting edge factory.
The last year only we have invested in a big laser and material handling unit, and also a form roller.
Bender roller machinery. Yeah.
Almost 20 million Swedish crowns only this year. So
which is around £2 million. Sorry, Stefan, just in case people don't know, about £2 million ish.
Yeah, that's correct. And over the years since the redesigning of the plant in 2012-13, I think maybe 70 million Swedish crowns are invested. That would be roughly 7 million pounds then.
And our other colleague who's joining just as a normal joiner, not a panelist, Irvin, he's also said, plus actually across the company really, continuing our Swedish and Norwegian cross-border cooperation. So that's very much at the heart of the business, and it means that we can retain links with, you know, the best quality and the best people in both places actually. And they're not far apart, as you mentioned, Victoria. It's about a 2-hour distance between the two, and then the plus is right in the middle. So they're really not that far apart when you look at the scale of the whole area.
But that's actually a statement in itself to underline the Swedish-Norwegian cooperation. We are two small countries, and we believe we will be stronger working together.
And also with Denmark now. Important cooperation from Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, and that is very much the principle of cooperation through the whole business, and exactly that, bring, you know, stronger together, isn't it? So I don't know if anyone has any other questions. I can start to sort of tie up the conversation. If not, was there anything else you wanted to mention, Victoria or Stefan?
No, I think I said what I wanted to say.
Okay. Would you be able to stop sharing your screen, and then I'll bring up the last few slides? That's okay. We've been looking at the lovely factory facade. And we do genuinely want of our customers, and people joining us on these webinars are also really keen to visit. So as soon as we can, we'll try to do that. And hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later. But obviously we're not in control of any of that at the moment, so we have to wait and see. So I'll just share my screen again and bring things to a slow close. I think we're there. I'm hoping you can see that. So just a few minutes to round up everything. I hope you can see that the principles behind what we've just been talking about are aligned with SDG 12, and you can see ways that we're certainly acting to reduce our impact through innovative thinking, and maybe you can too. Hopefully this has made that more tangible, and particularly in terms of the circular economy and responsible production. But as consumers and specifiers, you also have that power, and if you can make positive changes yourselves in even the smallest ways, that's great. That's really the intent of this whole series. And just to mention, if you want to stay in touch, many of these Fika topics are also regularly discussed in our monthly newsletter, so do sign up. The form is on our About Us page on the website, and we talk about using design as a tool for change, anti-hostile design, inclusive public spaces, for example. So don't miss out and make sure you're signed up to those. Also, obviously, social media, and particularly Instagram, you'll see on this slide, a picture of the plus in there. We're updating people constantly on progress and what we're up to. And then just finally, a few points on our plans for the future. We really hope you've enjoyed this session, and thank you for giving up a precious hour to join us. We know that it's a very competitive online scene out there, and you know, there's lots competing for your time these days. But don't forget that these webinars count towards your CPD commitment. And for instance, if you're a landscape architect, there's a requirement now for a minimum of 5 hours each year on the climate emergency. So these most definitely would fit that requirement. Also bear in mind our competition. For those of you who are desperate to go visit the Plus when it's open next year, we're offering a trip, and everybody who joins us each month is put into a hat, and we'll draw that at the end of the year to see who the lucky person is, and we'll take you on. We're not sure how, but we're thinking we might need an eco bus or some kind of sustainable transport to get all these people there. And then you'll be able to see exactly how we incorporate the SDGs into everything that we do. And I'm sure Stefan and Viktoria would love to take you on a tour and explain in real life. And you can see our upcoming Fikas here. So next month, Barry is joining us, as is Oliver Heath, and we're talking about decent work and economic growth and the move to outdoor workspaces. We're having to move that to a Thursday for once. So don't miss that. It'll be on the Thursday before the normal Friday, but we'll be sending out reminders. July, we may take a month off because everyone seems to be going on holiday, but we'll see. Again, you'll hear more in time. And August, we're going to talk about life on land in the run-up to Planted launching at the London Design Week, and have a discussion on biophilic urbanism. So again, bringing trees and greenery and life into urban environments. So please do get in touch if you have any ideas for other topics to explore, or have any thoughts on today or the direction of future ones. And obviously all of the previous sessions and this one will be available online shortly. We'll send the links out to those. And if you want to delve in even deeper, we have our 3 standard CPDs that you can book. Many of these speaker topics are included in those, and we deliver those virtually now. So thank you so much, all of you, again, for joining us. Obviously, Viktoria and Stefan, thank you, and have a great weekend. And my colleagues Matt and Jack, who are hiding in the background but helping with all of the background functions. And have a great weekend, or go Helg.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Viktoria. Thank you, Stefan. See you soon.